February 1956, minus 42 degrees. Mikhail Gromov lies in complete darkness under 2 meters of frozen earth and listens as dogs bark above his head. The German shepherds are following the trail, their barking getting closer. Closer. Just a little more and they'll be right over his shelter. He doesn't move, doesn't even breathe. He holds his breath and freezes, as he was taught in military intelligence courses 15 years ago. Dogs sense fear, sense movement, sense warmth. He needs to become a stone, become motionless. Through a meter-thick layer of compacted snow and 1.5 meters of earth, voices filter through. Guards, 3, maybe 4. They stop right over the dugout. Mikhail hears the creak of boots on the snow. He hears one of them lighting a cigarette. The match strikes. "The trail ends here," says one voice. Young, irritated. "The dogs are going crazy," replies the second. Older, more experienced, turning in place. "Maybe some animal passed by, threw off the scent or burrowed somewhere. I heard they do that. Dig holes, hide like moles." Silence. Mikhail feels his heart beating so loudly that it seems they'll hear it through the earth. He can't panic, can't move. They don't know about the dugout. No one knows. "Called the helicopter?" asks the young one. "Yeah, it'll be here in about 20 minutes with a thermal imager. If anyone's hiding within a kilometer radius, it'll find them." Mikhail closes his eyes. If the helicopter with the thermal imager flies over the dugout, it'll see the heat spot, see that there's someone alive under the ground, and then it's over. But he prepared for this. For 2 years, he built this dugout, thinking through every detail. 1 meter of earth, 0.5 meter of moss, 0.5 meter of snow, 3 layers of insulation. The heat shouldn't escape outside. It shouldn't. The guards stand for another 5 minutes. The dogs bark, paw at the snow. One comes right up to the camouflaged entrance, starts whining. Mikhail freezes completely. "Get away from there," shouts the guard at the dog. "What did you find?" "A mouse." A boot kick. The dog yelps, runs off. The guards move on, and their voices fade. The barking recedes. Mikhail lies in the darkness for another hour, motionless. Then another hour. Only when it's completely quiet does he allow himself to exhale. They didn't find him. Again, they didn't find him. This is the 3rd winter in the dugout. The 3rd winter of escape. 827 days underground. In the cold, in the darkness, in solitude. 827 days of a life that shouldn't exist. But how did he end up here? Why is a military intelligence officer, holder of the Order of the Red Star, a war hero, living like a mole under the taiga, hiding from his own country? To understand this, we need to go back 3 years to the polar camp where it all began. April 1953. Polar camp. The Arctic. Mikhail Gromov sat on the bunks and looked out the barack window at the endless tundra. He was 38 years old, but he looked 50. 3 years in the camp did to a person what 10 years of war didn't. Article 58, Paragraph 6. Espionage. 25 years in the camps for contacting American liaison officers during the war as part of his duties on orders from command. But in 49, a new wave of repressions began, and contacts with foreigners became a retroactive crime. They arrested him in November 49. Interrogations lasted 6 months. They beat him, starved him, demanded he confess to passing secrets. He didn't confess because there was nothing to confess. But it didn't matter. The trial lasted 20 minutes. 25 years. The first year in the camp, he still hoped. Hoped for a case review, amnesty, anything. The second year, hope began to die. The third year, he realized there were 2 ways out from here: break or try to escape. Death didn't suit him. Escape remained. But how to escape from a camp in the Arctic? Around, for 1,000 kilometers, tundra, swamp, taiga. The nearest settlement is 200 kilometers away. In winter, temperatures drop to -50. In summer, mosquitoes and midges that drive dogs mad. Helicopters, patrols. From polar, there were 23 escapes in 10 years of the camp's existence. All were caught. 17 people were executed. 6 were returned to the camp and given new terms. But Mikhail Gromov was no ordinary prisoner. He was a military intelligence officer. He was trained to survive behind enemy lines, to hide, camouflage, live unnoticed for months. Trained to kill with bare hands and build shelters from nothing. And he came up with a plan. A plan that seemed insane, but it was the only chance. He wouldn't run far. He'd hide nearby, underground, build an invisible dugout a kilometer from the camp, and wait it out. Wait out the first weeks when they're searching actively. Wait out the months when they're searching periodically. Wait out years if necessary, and then, when they've forgotten about him, head south to people to a new life. An insane plan, but there were no others. Mikhail Gromov was born in 1915 in a small town near Smolensk. An ordinary family, ordinary childhood. At 18, he was drafted into the army. They noticed his quick wit, endurance, ability to learn fast. Sent him to military intelligence courses. There, he was taught everything that would later save his life. How to survive in the forest without supplies. How to build shelters that can't be found from the air. How to hide from dogs. Their sense of smell can be fooled if you know how. How to navigate without a compass and map. How to kill silently and quickly. He went through the whole war from 41 to 45. Worked behind German lines, gathered intelligence, organized sabotage. Wounded 3 times, concussed twice, awarded the Order of the Red Star, Medal for Valor, commendations from command. In 44, when the Allies opened the Second Front, he was attached to American units. Liaison officer. Worked with American intelligence, coordinated actions. Learned English well. Befriended several American officers. After the war, returned home a hero. Married, daughter born. Worked at a military school training new intelligence officers. Life was good, calm. Then it began. In 49, they came at night. Black van, 3 in NKVD uniforms. Wife cried. Daughter hid behind the stove. They took him away without explanation. The first interrogation started an hour after arrest. The investigator was young with the cold eyes of a fanatic. Gromov Mikhail Petrovich, accused of espionage in favor of the USA. Do you confess? No. I always served the motherland. You passed secret information to the Americans. We have testimony. Whose testimony? That's a lie. Punch to the face. Then another, then more. Interrogations lasted 12 hours. They beat him with rubber truncheons to leave no marks. Didn't let him sleep. That breaks faster than beatings. After 3 months, Mikhail was ready to sign anything to stop the pain. But he didn't sign. He held on because he knew if he confessed, they'd shoot him immediately. But if not, they'd give him a term and there was a chance to survive. They gave him 25 years, sent him to Polar, one of the most terrible camps in the Arctic. 3 years in Polar killed his last illusions about justice. Here, terror, hunger, and cold ruled. They worked logging 14 hours a day. Ration. 600 g of bread and slop. Slept in barracks where the temperature dropped to -10 inside in winter. Every week, they buried 2 or 3 prisoners. Some froze, some couldn't take it, some just lay on the bunks and didn't get up. Gave up. Mikhail wasn't going to give up. In the winter of 52, he began preparing, studying the terrain during logging outings, looking for a place for the dugout, one where he wouldn't be found. It needed to be close to the camp but away from patrol routes, a place with good soil for digging near water. He found the ideal spot in April 53, a kilometer from the camp on the edge of a swamp among dense spruce. A small hill that doesn't flood in spring. Nearby stream, water, sandy soil, easy to dig. Now he needed tools. Shovel, axe, saw, knife. Stealing was impossible. They checked every evening, but he could make them himself. For a month, he gathered materials, stole a piece of sheet metal from the warehouse, future shovel. Found an old file in the dump, future knife. Pilfered guair. From it, he could make a saw. At night, when everyone slept, he worked, sharpening the metal with stones to make the shovel blade, sharpening the file into a knife, twisting the wire into a saw. By May, the tools were ready. He hid them in the forest near the future dugout site. Now the main thing remained, the escape. The plan was simple. During the next logging outing, slip away from the brigade unnoticed. Hide in a pre-dug hole. Wait out the first day of searches, then get out and start building the dugout. A simple plan, but any mistake meant death. May 23, 1953. The brigade was led to logging. Mikhail walked at the end of the column, inconspicuous, gray. At the logging site, everyone spread out to sections. Guards, 3 for 20 prisoners, couldn't watch everyone at once. Mikhail worked until lunch, then quietly went into the bushes, supposedly to relieve himself, but instead of returning, dove into the pre-dug hole, covered himself with branches, moss, earth, lay motionless, holding his breath. He heard the guards shouting, counting prisoners. Heard them realize one missing. Panic started. Whistles, shouts, dogs brought in. The German shepherds ran, barked, searched, passed 3 meters from his shelter, but didn't find him. He had treated the hole with tar to mask the scent. By evening, searches stopped. They decided the fugitive had gone far. In the morning, they'd come with a helicopter, dogs combed the area. But Mikhail didn't go anywhere. He stayed in the hole until deep night, then climbed out and went to the site of his future dugout. There, under the dark sky of the polar night, he thrust the shovel into the ground and began digging. Digging his salvation or path to it. Digging the frozen earth turned out to be hell. May in the Arctic is still winter. The soil was frozen a meter deep. The homemade shovel from sheet metal bent, dulled on the frozen ground. Mikhail worked like a convict, chiseling centimeter by centimeter. The first night, he dug a pit 1 meter by 1 meter, half a meter deep. Pitiful result for 12 hours of work. His hands were calloused, his back burned with pain, but he couldn't stop. At dawn, he heard a helicopter, hid in the unfinished pit, covered with branches. The helicopter circled over the taiga for an hour, then flew away, searching further. They think he went south. During the day, he slept in the pit, exhausted. Woke up from hunger. Last ate the morning before last in the camp. In his pockets, only crackers he had saved for a week. 5 crackers for who knows how many days. He ate one, slowly chewing every crumb, washed it down with water from the stream, then took up the shovel again. The second night, he dug deeper. The earth softened, past the permafrost layer. The pit grew, 1 meter deep, 1.5, 2 meters long, 1.5 wide. On the third night, he started making the ceiling. Cut down thin birches, laid them as a roof over the pit. Covered with earth, tamped it down, left a small entrance on the side, narrow. By the end of the week, the dugout was ready in the first approximation. 2 meters underground, 1 meter 50 in height inside, 2 by 1.5 meters area. Entrance camouflaged with moss and branches. Inside, reinforced the walls with boards he dragged from an abandoned logging site a kilometer away. But this was just the beginning. The dugout was damp, cold, dark. Needed a stove. Without it, he'd freeze in winter. Supplies of food were needed. 2 crackers left. Needed clothes. The quilted jacket was already soaked through. Mikhail understood the hardest was ahead. Building the dugout was half the job. Surviving in it was something else entirely. The following weeks, he furnished the dwelling, made bunks from branches and moss. Sleeping on the ground meant freezing. Built a primitive stove from stones. Would heat with peat. Smoke almost invisible. The chimney he let out to the side 20 meters away so it wouldn't come straight from the dugout. Food procurement became the main problem. He set traps for hares, snares for ptarmigans. Out of 10 traps, 1 worked. A hare once a week, that was little. Needed more. Started fishing in the stream, made a spear from a sharpened stick. Caught small fish at night. 3 or 4 fish per night. Ate them raw. Lighting a fire was dangerous. Smoke would be seen. By July, he had lost 20 kilograms. Bones protruded through the skin. But he was alive and free. Searches continued all June. Helicopters flew every day. Twice patrols passed 100 meters from the dugout. Once dogs passed 50 meters away. Mikhail sat in the dugout not breathing, gripping his homemade knife. But they didn't find him. The dugout was invisible. In July, searches stopped. They decided the fugitive had perished in the taiga. As with most, the taiga doesn't forgive mistakes. Mikhail allowed himself to exhale. First stage passed. Now prepare for winter. August and September he worked like a possessed man. Stockpiled firewood, felled dry trees, sawed logs, dragged to the dugout, stockpiled food, dried fish, berries, mushrooms, insulated the dugout, added layers of moss, earth, branches. By October, supplies were ready. A pile of firewood 2 human heights tall, 10 kilograms dried fish, 3 kilograms dried berries, mushrooms little but enough until spring if rationed. The first snow fell at the end of October. Mikhail covered the dugout entrance with an extra layer of branches, buried it in snow. Now it was completely invisible, just a hill under the snow. November brought real frosts, -30 to -40. In the dugout, he heated the stove twice a day, morning and evening. Temperature held around 0. Cold but not deadly. December was hell, -50 outside. He heated the stove constantly, but the temperature in the dugout dropped to -10. Slept in his quilted jacket, covered with everything he had. Woke up from the cold every hour. Food ran out faster than planned. The body demanded calories to warm up. By January, fish supplies were gone. Only berries and a few handfuls of mushrooms left. He began to starve. Ate once a day in tiny portions, weakened every day, but held on. January, the scariest month. Food completely gone. He lay on the bunks, conserving strength, and thought, "This is how they die, quietly in the darkness underground. No one will ever know." But at the end of January, a miracle happened. He heard scratching at the dugout entrance. Climbed out, saw a hare caught in an old trap he set in autumn and forgot. A hare. 3 kilograms of meat. Salvation. He slaughtered the hare, butchered it, ate half raw, no strength to wait, dried the rest on the stove. That meat lasted 3 weeks. February brought new danger. He heard people walking above ground, geologists or hunters couldn't tell. They walked for 2 days, set up camp 300 meters away. Mikhail didn't leave the dugout, afraid to leave tracks. On the 3rd day, they left. He survived again. March. First signs of spring. Snow began to melt. Daylight lengthened. He began leaving the dugout at night, setting traps, checking snares. Caught 3 hares in March, started fishing. Ice on the stream melted. Strength returned. April 1954. A year in the dugout, a year of escape. He survived the first winter, but 2 more ahead. Summer 1954 brought not relief, but new trials. Mikhail understood one dugout wasn't enough. Needed a survival system, caches with supplies, backup shelters in case the dugout was discovered. Needed a network of traps for game. Needed a plan for each season. He started with reconnaissance of the territory. Radius of 5 kilometers around the dugout. Studied every path, every stream, every clearing. Memorized where berries grow, where hares live, where to set snares unnoticed. Discovered an abandoned hunting hut 3 kilometers from the dugout, old, half-ruined, but with preserved bunks and stove. He made a cache there, buried a jar of salt under the floor that he stole in the camp, and a spare knife. Found an old mine, copper mine, abandoned since Tsarist times. Entrance collapsed but could crawl through. Inside dry, dark, safe. Another shelter in case of danger. June brought mosquitoes. Clouds, swarms of mosquitoes, no escape. They crawled into eyes, ears, nose, bit through clothes, drove mad. Mikhail understood why many fugitives surrendered in summer. Not from hunger, but from mosquitoes. He made a mosquito net from old sacking, impregnated with tar. Helped, but not completely. By end of June, his whole body was covered in welts from bites. July was hunting month. He set traps, snares, pitfalls. Out of 10 traps, 1 or 2 worked per week, but it gave meat. Hare, ptarmigan, once caught a young deer. 20 Kilogramm meat. Feast. He dried the meat in the sun, smoked over peat smoke, stockpiled for winter. By August, accumulated 15 kilograms dried meat, twice as much as last year. August, time for berries and mushrooms. He gathered blueberries, bilberries, cloudberries. Dried in the sun, stored in birch bark boxes. Dried a whole sack of mushrooms. Supplies grew. September brought the first snow and the first encounter with people. He was setting a hare trap when he heard voices. 2 men walking on a path 50 meters away. Geologists or hunters? Couldn't tell. Mikhail froze behind a tree, not breathing. They passed without noticing. But it was an alarming sign. People walk here. Need to be more careful. October. Preparation for the second winter. He improved the dugout, added a second insulation layer, repaired the stove, stockpiled twice as much firewood. Learned from last winter's mistakes. Made an oil lamp from a jar and animal fat. Now there was light in the dugout, dim, sooty, but light. Changed everything. Could sew, Repair clothes, make tools. Clothes turned to rags. Quilted jacket fell apart, pants torn. He sewed clothes from hareskins. Primitive, rough, but warm. Turning into a savage. November 1954, start of the second winter. Frosts came early, -40 by mid-month. But this time he was ready. Food supplies enough, firewood sufficient, dugout insulated. He waited out the colds, going out only at night to check traps. December passed calmly, caught 2 hares, 1 ptarmigan, ate sparingly but didn't starve. That was a huge difference from last winter. January 1955 brought an event that almost ended it. He was checking traps at night when he heard engine roars. Helicopters. 3 helicopters flying low over the taiga with searchlights. Night raid. Mikhail dove into the snow, froze. Searchlights scanned the taiga, illuminating trees, bushes. 1 beam passed 2 meters from him. He didn't move, buried in snow. Helicopters circled for an hour, then flew away. He lay in the snow another 2 hours, making sure they wouldn't return. In the morning, he learned the reason for the raid. 3 prisoners escaped from the camp, searched for 3 days, found all 3 frozen 15 kilometers from the camp. It reminded Mikhail, he's not the only fugitive in the taiga, and every new escape means new raids, new risk of being accidentally discovered. February was the coldest month, -52 degrees. He almost didn't leave the dugout. Firewood ran out faster than planned. By month's end, had to break the bunks, burn them. March brought thaw and relief. Second winter passed. He survived again. April 1955. 2 years in the dugout. 2 years of escape. Mikhail looked at himself in a shard of mirror he found in the abandoned hut. Didn't recognize himself. Beard to his chest, hair to shoulders, skin weathered, eyes wild. He had turned into a forest man, but he was alive and free. The question was, how much longer? A year, 2, 10. He didn't know the answer. Summer 1955, 3rd year in the dugout. Mikhail started talking to himself. First in whispers, then aloud. Sometimes for hours he held conversations with imaginary interlocutors, with his wife whom he hadn't seen for 6 years, with his daughter who should now be 13, with comrades from the military school. He understood this was a sign. Solitude destroys the mind slower than hunger destroys the body, but no less surely. 2 years without a single human voice. 2 years of silence broken only by wind, bird cries, and his own thoughts. At night, nightmares. Dreamed he was still in the camp, that the escape never happened, that the dugout was a hallucination of a dying man. Woke in cold sweat, felt the dugout walls, convincing himself it was real. Worse than nightmares were moments of clarity, when he realized you can live like this a year, 2, 5, but not forever. Sooner or later you'll make a mistake, leave a track, not hear a helicopter, get sick, grow old. What then? Die here in the dugout, so in 100 years someone finds the skeleton and wonders how it got there. June brought an important discovery. He found an old tractor path, overgrown, half-forgotten, but still discernible. That meant somewhere nearby there was or is machinery, people, civilization. He followed this path at night, 3 kilometers east, and came out to an abandoned logging site. Old barracks, rotted, empty, warehouse with rusted tools and a find. Several cans of preserves forgotten in the warehouse. He took the cans, but the main thing, he found a newspaper. Old, from January 54. But a newspaper. First printed text in 2 years. Read it in the dugout by lamplight. Cover to cover, every word, every letter, even ads, even weather forecast. It returned him to the world of people, reminded that the world exists beyond the taiga. The main news in the newspaper, Stalin's death. March 1953. Mikhail read and didn't believe. Stalin is no longer in power. The tyrant who destroyed his life no longer exists. What did that mean for him? Amnesty? Case reviews? He didn't know and couldn't find out without leaving the taiga. July and August he spent in reflection. Maybe worth returning, surrendering? If Stalin's no longer in power, maybe something changed. But then he remembered. He was given 25 years for a non-existent crime. Amnesty unlikely to affect politicals, and for escape they'd add another 10 years. No, can't return. So continue living here in the dugout in the taiga. Alone. September brought an encounter that almost cost him his freedom. He was setting a trap when he heard children's laughter. Froze. On a clearing 100 meters away, children were playing. 3 children about 10 years old picking berries, laughing, running. He watched them hidden behind a tree. Children, live people. First time in 2 years seeing people so close. One girl looked like his daughter. Same light hair, same smile. Mikhail felt a lump in his throat. Almost stepped out. Almost called, but held back. If he steps out, children will get scared, run, tell adults, searches will start. And he stood and watched as the children played, picked berries, laughed. Then they left, and he sat on the ground and cried for the first time in 2 years. October, 3rd winter approaching. He prepared according to the established scheme. Firewood, food, insulation, but this time felt something wrong. Fatigue. Deep, bone-penetrating fatigue. November brought frosts. -35 first week. He heated the stove, checked traps, lived by the routine. But movements slower, reactions dulled. Mid-November almost died. Checking a trap, didn't notice a wolf approaching. Huge, hungry. They met, eyes 3 meters apart. The wolf growled. Mikhail froze, slowly reached for the knife on his belt. Seconds stretched like hours. The wolf took a step forward. Another. Mikhail shouted, loud, fierce, waving arms. The wolf jumped back, snarled, but retreated, disappeared into the taiga. Mikhail stood shaking, not from cold, from realization. He had become slow, defenseless. The taiga senses weakness, and soon it will take its own. December 1955, the hardest month in all 3 years. He got sick. Cough, fever, weakness, flu or pneumonia. Couldn't tell. Lay in the dugout a week, almost not getting up, without medicine, without help. Thought that's it, end. Would end his life here in darkness alone. But the body fought. After 10 days, fever broke. Got up, weak but alive. Realized can't go on like this. Need to decide. Either leave here south to people, start new life under false name, or stay here till the end. January 1956. Decision didn't come. Then something happened that decided everything for him. February 1956. That very morning when guards with dogs passed over the dugout. After they left, Mikhail lay another 3 hours motionless. Only when sure danger passed, carefully opened the camouflaged hatch and looked out. Snow around trampled. Boot prints, dog paw prints. They walked right over the dugout, not suspecting the fugitive was 2 meters below them. He saw a cigarette butt. One guard threw it right by the entrance. Picked it up, sniffed. Makorka. Smell of the camp. Smell of captivity. He threw the butt far away so not to see it. But main thing, he understood why they were here. Found a fresh newspaper the guards dropped. February 1956. Read, leaning against a tree. 5 prisoners escaped from the camp a week ago. Searching whole district. Helicopters, dogs, foot patrols. Found 3 without signs of life. 2 still searching. Mikhail folded the newspaper, hid in pocket. So raids will continue. Need to be even more careful. Next days he almost didn't leave the dugout. Food left little but risk too great. Heard helicopters every day. Twice heard dogs in the distance. After a week, found the last fugitives. Both liquidated during escape attempt. So wrote in the next newspaper Mikhail found at the abandoned hut. Raids stopped, but Mikhail understood. This will happen again and again. Every escape from the camp means danger for him. Sooner or later, someone will stumble on the dugout by chance. March brought an important event. He heard voices and looked from cover. A group of geologists walking on a path half a kilometer away. About 10 people with backpacks, maps, tools. They stopped, lit a fire, talked. Mikhail lay in snow and listened. First human voices in 3 years, not counting guard shouts. Geologists talked about work, families, weather, ordinary conversations of ordinary people. For Mikhail, it was like music. Then one said, "Heard about that fugitive? Gromov, I think, escaped from Polar 3 years ago. Still not found. Maybe wandering around here." "Nah, died long ago," replied another. "Can't survive a year in the taiga without supplies, especially winter. Bones lying somewhere. What if not? I heard he was an intelligence officer. They were trained to survive. Intelligence or not, can't stand against the taiga. And wolves would have eaten him long ago. They were talking about him, about Mikhail Gromov, about a ghost wandering the taiga. Dead or alive, no one knows. Geologists left after an hour, and Mikhail stayed lying in the snow, digesting what he heard. They consider him dead. That's good. They don't search for the dead. April 1956. Third spring in the dugout. He began planning departure. Decided, survive one more winter here, and in spring 57 head south, away from the Arctic, from camps, from the past. Needed documents. Without documents in the USSR, nowhere. Catch at first check. He remembered at the abandoned logging site there was an office. Maybe some papers left there. Went to check at night. In the office found old accounting journals, worker lists, invoices, and main find, a workbook in the name of Pyotr Semyonovich Lebedev, logging worker, died in 49 from accident. A person who no longer exists. Perfect cover. Mikhail took the book, hid in cash. When he leaves, becomes Pyotr Lebedev, wandering worker looking for work on distant construction sites. May was preparation time. He started training to speak slower, in a folksy way, change intonations, manners. Intelligence officer Gromov must die. Worker Lebedev must appear. June brought a bear encounter. Mikhail checking traps, heard branch crack. Turned. 10 meters away stood a bear. Huge, brown, with small evil eyes. They stared at each other. Mikhail knew, can't run, bear faster. Attacking useless, knife no weapon against bear. Only one thing, don't show fear. He slowly raised arms, making himself bigger, started speaking loud, confident, as taught in intelligence courses. Said anything, main thing, voice sound authoritative. Go away, beast. This is my territory. Go away, I say. The bear snorted, took a step forward. Mikhail stepped toward it, continuing. A minute standoff. Then the bear retreated. Another step. Another. Turned and went into the taiga. Mikhail sank to the ground shaking. That was too close. July and August passed in usual routine. Hunting, food stockpiling, dugout repair. But now with constant feeling this is last winter here. Spring departure. September brought news that changed everything. He found a fresh newspaper at a geological camp he discovered 5 kilometers away. In the newspaper, an article, Rehabilitation of Victims of Stalinist Repressions. Process of case reviews began. Thousands released from camps, charges dropped, rights restored. Mikhail read and didn't believe. Rehabilitation. His case might be reviewed. He could return to life not as Pyotr Lebedev, but as Mikhail Gromov. But for that, need to leave the taiga, show up, surrender. Risk enormous. They might not rehabilitate, might add term for escape, might eliminate as especially dangerous, but there was a chance. First chance in 6 years. October 1956. Fourth winter beginning. Mikhail prepared firewood, stockpiled food, but thoughts far away. Decision ripening. Stay or leave, wait here or risk. And then he made the decision. November 1956. The decision ripened in one night. Mikhail lay in the dugout, listening to the wind howling outside, and realized he couldn't anymore. 3.5 years underground, 3.5 years of solitude, fear, animal existence. He survived but stopped being human. Became a shadow, a ghost, a being without name and past. Rehabilitation was a chance, maybe the only one, and he decided to risk. But simply leaving the taiga and surrendering was extremely dangerous. Needed a plan, thorough, thought-out plan, how to reach people so not liquidated on the spot as dangerous fugitive. First, appearance. He looked like a savage. Beard to chest, hair to shoulders, clothes from animal skins, animal smell. Can't go out like that. Would scare, take for madman or bandit. He began tidying himself. Cut hair with homemade scissors from a can. Shaved beard bit by bit with sharp knife. Face under beard unfamiliar. Thin, lined with wrinkles, aged 20 years. Clothes, skins had to keep, no other. But washed in stream, dried, brought to relative order, sewed patches where torn. Second, story. Needed a story to tell authorities. Can't tell truth. Say 3 years hid near camp in dugout. Won't believe. Or believe but consider too dangerous, inventive. He invented a legend. Escaped 3 years ago, went far north, lived with old hermit in hut. Old man died this autumn, and now he decided to return. hearing of rehabilitation. Simple story. Impossible to check. Taiga huge, hermits many. Who counts? Third, time and place. Need to choose where and when to appear. Go straight to camp, suicide. Go to nearest settlement, dangerous. Might not sort it out, shoot. Best option, reach geologists. They're not guards, won't shoot immediately. Take to superiors, sort it out there. Geological camp he found in summer stood 5 kilometers away. Worked there till December, then left for wintering. Need to make it before departure. Mikhail prepared a week, rehearsed his legend, thought through answers to possible questions, hid all traces of dugout, buried entrances, removed tools to caches. If have to return, if something goes wrong, dugout should wait for him. November 23rd, decision day. He woke at dawn. Last time inspected the dugout, his shelter, his home and salvation at once. 3 years of life left here underground. Goodbye, he said into the void. If I return, means not fate. If not, thank you for hiding me. Took only knife and Pyotr Lebedev's workbook just in case. Climbed out of dugout last time. Carefully camouflaged entrance. Looked at familiar spruce grove, stream, paths he knew by heart, and went southeast to geological camp. Walked slowly, stopping every 100 m, listening, sniffing, looking around. Intelligence skills hadn't gone anywhere in 3 years, maybe even sharpened. After 3 hours, reached edge of clearing where geological camp stood. For tents, truck, campfire. People moving between tents, talking, working. Ordinary life of ordinary people. Mikhail stood at forest edge 20 minutes, gathering courage. This was point of no return. Step forward and he's human among people again. Or end if mistaken. He took a deep breath and stepped onto the clearing. First to notice him was a young geologist unloading crates from truck. Turned, saw figure in animal skins at clearing edge and froze, paling. "Boss!" he shouted with breaking voice. "Boss, someone's here." From tent came elderly man with beard, expedition chief. Saw Mikhail, frowned, took step forward. "Stop. Who are you? What do you want?" Mikhail raised hands, showing unarmed. Voice, when he spoke, hoarse from disuse. "My name is Mikhail Gromov. I'm an escaped prisoner from Polar Camp. Escaped 3 years ago. Want to surrender." Silence. Geologists looked at him like a ghost. Someone crossed himself. "Gromov?" asked the chief again. The Gromov they've been searching for 3 years. Thought he was gone.
I'm alive.
Hid in the taiga, heard about rehabilitation. Want to return. The chief nodded slowly, then turned to the young geologist. "Petya, run to the car, get the rifle. Carefully, might be dangerous." "I'm not dangerous," said Mikhail calmly. "If I wanted harm, you wouldn't see me. I'm an intelligence officer, or was. Brought the rifle." The chief held it uncertainly, not aiming but ready.
Come closer, slowly.
Hands visible. Mikhail approached, stood by fire, extended hands to flame. First time in a month feeling campfire warmth, not peat stove. Geologists surrounded him in semicircle, examining like a curiosity. "Where did you hide?" asked the chief. "In the north? With an old hermit. He died a month ago. I decided to return. 3 years in the taiga. How did you survive?" "Hunted, fished, the old man taught me." The chief looked at him attentively, appraisingly, then slowly lowered the rifle. "Give him tea and food. Looks like a skeleton." They brought Mikhail a mug of hot tea and a piece of bread. Real bread, not cracker. Real tea with sugar. He ate slowly so not to vomit. Stomach unused to normal food. Geologists sat around, asked questions: where was, how survived, saw anyone, why return now. Mikhail answered calmly, sticking to legend. Old hermit, distant hut, hunting, fishing. All simple, plausible. By evening, truck arrived from district. Chief called police on radio. 2 policemen and state security officer arrived. Officer young, about 30, with cold gray eyes. Looked at Mikhail long. Gromov Mikhail Petrovich, 41 years, former military intelligence. Convicted in 50 by Article 58, Paragraph 6, 25 years. Escaped May 23, 53. 3 years, 6 months on the run. "Is that you?" "Yes." "Where hid?" "In taiga with hermit." "Hermit's name?" "Don't know, he didn't say. Called himself just Ivan." "Where's the hut?" North, about 50 kilometers from here. Can show on map approximately. Officer took out map. Mikhail pointed finger at random point far from dugout. Around here, maybe a bit east. Officer folded map, looked Mikhail in eyes. Don't believe a word, but checking will take long. Meanwhile, you're under arrest. Hands cuffed cold. Metal. Mikhail didn't resist. Expected this. Put in truck, taken to district center. 3 hours bumping on rough road. Mikhail sat silent, looking through slit between boards at passing taiga. Goodbye, freedom. Hello, uncertainty. District center met with lights. Settlement of 1,000 people, wooden houses, one asphalt street. Truck stopped at police building. Led inside, removed cuffs, put in cell. 3 by 3 bunks, bucket, barred window. After dugout seemed like palace. Morning interrogations began. December 1956. District police cell. Interrogations started 8 a.m., ended 10 p.m., 14 hours a day. 3 investigators rotated every 4 hours. Mikhail sat alone, answering endless questions. Where hid, how survived, who helped, saw anyone, contacted whom, why return now? Mikhail stuck to legend. Old hermit Ivan hut north, hunting, fishing. Old man died, he returned. All simple, but investigators dug deeper. Main investigator Major Sokolov, experienced, smart man. Didn't shout, threaten, just asked questions in quiet, insinuating voice. Mikhail Petrovich, let's go again. This old man, what did he look like? Gray-haired, about 70, with beard, short. What did he wear? Quilted jacket, padded pants, felt boots. Where did he get quilted jacket? They're only in camps. Pause. Mikhail hadn't foreseen this. Maybe bought somewhere or found. Didn't ask. And how did you find him? Taiga huge. Stumbled on hut by chance. And he just took you in, escaped prisoner. He didn't ask who I was. I didn't say. In 3 years never asked.
No.
He was taciturn. Sokolov wrote, nodded, not showing if he believed. Good. And where is this hut?
Exact coordinates.
Don't know coordinates. Can show direction. We'll send a group to check. You'll go with them. This was a trap. And Mikhail knew if he leads them into taiga, they'll realize he lied. No hut in that direction. I can't find exactly. 3 years passed. Everything changed. Try, you have good memory, you're an intelligence officer. Next day brought maps, large, detailed, with every stream and hill. Made Mikhail show route from camp to hut. He showed at random far from dugout, away from all his paths, led finger on map, named landmarks he saw only from afar. Sokolov listened, wrote, asked clarifying questions. Crossed this stream? Yes. Where? Where shallow? Show. Mikhail showed, improvised, lied convincingly as taught in intelligence courses, but felt Sokolov didn't believe. Testing, waiting for mistake. After week of interrogations, announced sending search group. 3 people will follow indicated route, find hut, check his story. Mikhail nodded calmly, but inside tensed. If don't find hut, realize he lied, start searching where he really hid, and might find dugout. Group left December 5th. 3 policemen, hunter guide. Food supply for week. Mikhail stayed in cell, counting days. First day, second, third. Every day Sokolov came, asked route details, checked for contradictions. On 4th day Sokolov came with news. Group contacted. No hut found. Say in that area no structures at all, only wild taiga. Mikhail silent, expected this. So you lied. No old man. Where did you really hide? Didn't lie. Maybe remember place wrong. 3 years passed. Or hid somewhere else. Maybe close to camp, maybe in dugout like some do. Mikhail's heart skipped, but face calm. No, I was far. Then why can't show place? Exactly. Disoriented. Taiga big. Sokolov looked long, appraisingly. Then stood, went to door. The threshold turned. We'll find where you hid sooner or later, and then add term for lying. Door closed. Mikhail left alone in cell. December 10th group returned. Found nothing. But Hunter guide said something important. Sokolov came with this info. Hunter says saw strange tracks, old, snow-covered, but saw path someone trod and masked kilometers 5 from camp on swamp edge.
Familiar?
Mikhail froze. That was close to dugout. Too close. No, wasn't there. Hunter says path clearly human, not animal. Someone walked there regularly. Not me then. Who? Invisible hermit. Sokolov smiled, but eyes cold. We'll send group to check that area thoroughly. If find something, your case much worse. Group left next day. 6 people with dogs. Task Combe district on swamp edge. Find signs of habitation. Mikhail lay on bunks staring at ceiling. Dugout camouflaged well, but if search purposefully with dogs might find. Dogs will smell even under snow. If find dugout, find tools, firewood remains, food scraps, everything proving he hid there 3 years. Then add term, maybe execute as especially dangerous. First day passed in torturous waiting. Second, on third day Sokolov burst into cell, face triumphant. Found the dugout. Found 2 meters underground, camouflaged as hill. Tools, firewood supplies, food remains. You lived there 3 years a kilometer from camp. Confess. Mikhail closed eyes. And all over. Yes, he said quietly. I lived there 3 years. 3 years, 6 months. Sokolov sat opposite, took notebook. Tell everything from beginning. And Mikhail told how planned escape. Built dugout at nights. Escaped and hid. Survived 3 winters. Hid from dogs and helicopters. Lived alone in darkness, cold, fear. Sokolov listened, wrote, sometimes shook head. Incredible. 3 years a kilometer from camp. Searched hundreds times. How not found? I'm intelligence. Taught to hide. Why decided to come out? Tired, couldn't anymore, and heard about rehabilitation. When Mikhail finished, Sokolov sat silent long, then said, You understand your case now more complicated. 3 years escape, lying in interrogations. That adds term. Understand. But there's another point. Sokolov took folder, put on table. While you sat here, documents came from Moscow on your case. Rehabilitation Commission reviewed materials. He opened folder, took paper. Case number 4387, accusing Gromov Mikhail Petrovich reviewed. Charges dropped. Recognized innocent. Subject to release and rehabilitation. Silence. Mikhail stared at paper, not believing you're rehabilitated. Officially free. But escaped 3 years on run. Sokolov smirked. Formally you escaped illegal imprisonment. And since imprisonment illegal, escape not crime. Legal subtlety but works. Mikhail silent. No words. You're free. Gromov? Can go where? Wherever you want, home to family, live. Family, wife, daughter. Hadn't seen 7 years. Alive, waiting. Where are they? He asked hoarsely. Wife, daughter, you know. Sokolov nodded. Took another paper. Contacted. Wife alive. Lives in Arkhangelsk. Daughter 18. They thought you dead. Can see them. Can. We'll send you to Arkhangelsk, give documents, money for road. All by law. Mikhail sat unable to move. 7 years hell, 3 in camp, 3 underground. And now freedom. Real freedom. Thank you, he whispered. Sokolov stood, extended hand. Good luck, Gromov. You earned it. December 1956. Road to Arkhangelsk. Mikhail Gromov sat in train looking out window at passing world. Snowy fields, villages, stations, people on platforms, ordinary people living ordinary lives. They didn't know next to them sat a man just emerged from underground after 3 years in a hole. Gave him new clothes, dark suit, white shirt, boots. Shaved at barber, haircut. In mirror saw stranger, thin, with sunken eyes. Network of wrinkles not there 7 years ago. 41 years, looked 55. In pocket documents. ID. Rehabilitation certificate 200 rubles. State compensation. Money for 7 stolen years. Ridiculous sum, but not about money. Main he's free. Officially documented, finally free. But free for real. 3 years underground changed him. Couldn't sleep in closed rooms. Panic started, shortness of breath. Couldn't be among large crowds. Felt suffocating. Flinched at sharp sounds, loud voices. In train sat by window in corner, back to wall. Old intelligence habit. Always see everyone. Let no one approach from behind. Other passengers glanced at him. Something in him wrong, wild, frightening. Train went 3 days. Mikhail almost didn't sleep. Lay on berth, stared at ceiling. Remembered dugout, darkness, cold, solitude. Fear when dogs barked overhead. Hunger when food ended. Despair of long winter nights. All too recent. Just 2 weeks ago he was there underground, now in train, going to family, to life. On third day, train arrived in Arkhangelsk. Northern city, wooden houses, snowy streets. Mikhail stepped on platform, stopped, not knowing where to go. Wife's address given at police. Lomonosov Street, House 8, Apartment 3. Asked directions, went on foot across city. 2 hours walking unfamiliar streets. City seemed huge, noisy, scary after taiga. Cars, people, voices, music from windows. All too loud, too bright, too much. Wanted to run back to forest silence, but he walked step by step, street by street, to House 8 on Lomonosov. House 2-story, wooden, old. Apartment 3 on second floor. Mikhail climbed creaky stairs, stood at door. Hand froze at bell. What to say? Hi, I'm back. 7 years gone. 7 years they thought him dead. How meet, wanna see, he pressed bell. Inside shuffling steps. Door opened on chain. In slit woman's face, familiar but aged, with gray strands in hair. Anna, his wife. She looked at him second, two, not recognizing. Then eyes widened, mouth opened, chain clattered to floor. Misha, she whispered. Is it you? Me, he answered hoarsely. She stood, holding jam, unable to move, then stepped forward, extended hand, touched his face, convincing real, alive, not ghost. Misha, God, you gone 7 years. They told us, we thought I know. Forgive. Tears flowed down her face. She stepped forward, hugged him, pressed, sobbed into his shoulder. He hugged her awkwardly, unused to human touch. They stood in doorway, embracing, both crying. 7 years separation, pain, losses crashed at once. Then from room came girl, tall, slender, with long light hair. 18 years. She looked at unfamiliar man in doorway, crying mother, not understanding. Mom, what happened? Who is this? Anna pulled away, wiped tears, turned to daughter. Katya, this is your father? Girl froze, looked at Mikhail wide-eyed. Father, but he died. You said he died in camp. I thought so, but he's alive. He returned. Katya slowly approached, stopped a meter away, studied his face and now similarity to photo she saw in childhood. Are you really my father? Mikhail nodded, unable to speak. Last saw her when she was 11. Girl with pigtails, hiding behind stove, night of arrest. Now before him, adult girl, beautiful, unfamiliar. I don't remember you, she said quietly. I was little. I remember you. Always remember. They entered apartment. 2 rooms, small kitchen, windows to yard. Modest, poor, but clean, cozy. Anna put on kettle, sliced bread. Got jar of jam. Sit, eat. You look awful. Skin and bones. Mikhail sat at table. Real table with real tablecloth. Not bunks and dugout, not floor with moss instead of mattress. He looked at it all like miracle. Tea, bread, jam, simple food, but after 3 years raw fish and crackers feast. They sat 3 at table, awkward silence. So much to say, but no one knew where to start. Katya broke silence. Where were you? Mom said you in camp, but camp far north. How returned? Mikhail looked at Anna. She nodded. Tell truth. I was in camp 3 years, then escaped. Escaped? Katya raised eyebrows. From camp. How? Hid. Lived in taiga 3 years. Alone. Alone. Katya silent, digesting. Then, 3 years alone in taiga. That's impossible. Possible. Taught to survive. Anna took his hand, squeezed. I don't care. How main. You're alive. You returned. Prayed every day, asked God to return you, and he did. Mikhail lowered eyes. God. He forgot about God in dugout, or God forgot him. 3 years. Underground taught hope only in yourself. In evening, when Katya went to friend, they alone sat in kitchen, drank tea, talked. Anna told how lived these years, how learned of arrest, how fought trying to get truth, how told he died in camp in 54, how mourned him, put photo on dresser like monument, told how worked at factory, raised daughter alone, how lacked money, food, strength, how wanted give up but held for Katya. Mikhail listened and understood she went through her hell. Different, but no less terrible. Wife of enemy of people with stigma for life. Humiliation, poverty, fear. Then she asked, and you? Tell how it was there, in taiga. And he told not all, but much. How built dugout, hid from dogs, survived winter. How 3 years heard no human voice but own. How went mad from solitude. Talked to her, to Katia, to dead comrades. Anna listened, cried, squeezed his hand. How did you endure? Couldn't. I almost gave up many times, but thought of you, that someday return. That held. At night they lay in one bed, first in 7 years, but not as husband and wife, just side by side, holding hands, like two survivors of catastrophe. Mikhail couldn't sleep. Room seemed cramped, stuffy, despite open window. Ceiling pressed. Used to low dugout ceiling, here high, unfamiliar. Got up at 3 a.m., went to balcony, stood looking at dark city, falling snow. Somewhere there, hundreds kilometers away in taiga, stood dugout. His home 3 years. His grave that wasn't fated to be grave. Would he return there someday? Look, remember, or better forget, erase from memory. Live on? Didn't know. Morning neighbors came. News of returned from otherworld. Gromov spread through house. People came, looked like miracle, asked questions, shook heads, crossed. 7 years gone, thought dead, he returned. God's will. Mikhail sat, answered questions, smiled awkwardly, unused to people, their curiosity, noise, wanted to escape, hide, return to silence. Evening, when last neighbors left, he told Anna, I can't hear. Too many people, noise. Need to get used. She understood. You need time. I understand, we're in no hurry. Next week's hell of adaptation. Mikhail learned to be human again. Learned sleep in bed, eat normal food, talk to people. Learned not flinch at door slam, not freeze at siren sound. Hardest being among people in store, street, bus. Crowd pressed, caused panic. Several times ran, hid in alleys, breathed. Frequently calming himself. Katia helped silently, no extra questions. Walked with him evenings when few people. Showed city, told about her life, future plans. Gradually he began knowing her, smart, strong girl who grew without father but didn't break. She wanted become doctor, enter medical institute. Want help people, she said, so no one suffers like you and mom. Mikhail looked at her and proud. His daughter survived despite everything. In January 1957, called to military enlistment office, gave documents, restored to captain rank, offered job, teach survival at military school. Your experience unique, said Colonel. 3 years in taiga alone. Need pass to young fighters. Mikhail agreed. Needed work, goal, meaning. Couldn't just sit home, remembering past. Started teaching February. Young cadets listened, breath held as 42-year-old captain told about survival in extreme conditions. How get fire without matches, build shelter, find food winter. He didn't tell about dugout, didn't tell all this knowledge bought at price 3 years hell. Just taught, past experience, and gradually, day by day, week by week, return to life. New life, old wounds. Spring 1957. Mikhail Gromov gradually settled in new life. Work at military school, family, ordinary life, but nights still return to dugout. Dreams same. He lies underground, hears dog bark overhead, can't move. Darkness presses, air short, walls close. Woke in cold sweat screaming, which woke Anna. Again, she asked, quietly hugging him. Again. Doctors said it'll pass. Time heals, but year passed, then 2 dreams didn't go. Dugout held him stronger than seemed. Day he normal. Worked, talked with cadets, went store, met old friends from school, those few who didn't turn away after arrest. But something inside stayed in taiga underground, in that life. Couldn't be in closed spaces long. In lectures in auditorium, constantly opened window, even winter. Students froze, but he explained, need fresh air. Actually afraid suffocate. Couldn't ride elevator. Climb stairs even to 5th floor. Closed box, walls all sides caused panic. Couldn't sleep with closed doors. Bedroom door always ajar. Path to exit must be free. Anna understood, didn't ask, insist, just was there. Accepting him as is, man with invisible wounds. Katia entered medical institute summer 57. Studied well, helped mother, sometimes talked with father about life, future. But no closeness. She knew him only year after 7-year absence. He was for her more kind stranger than father. Mikhail understood and not offended. Time lost, can't return. Secret can't tell. Autumn 1958 KGB officer came to Mikhail, Colonel Krasnov, elderly with smart eyes. Captain Gromov, need your help. Listening. We train special agents for insertion behind potential enemy lines. They need long-term survival skills in isolation. Your only person in country lived 3 years in full isolation. Your experience priceless. Mikhail listened silent. We ask you train our people confidentially with non-disclosure agreement. Good pay. What exactly teach? How build shelters not found? How fool dogs? Thermal imagers? Patrols? How withstand psychological pressure solitude? Everything you know. Mikhail thought minute, then nodded. Agree, but one condition. Won't tell them about dugout. Location remains secret. Why? It's personal. Don't want found, destroyed, made museum or training ground. Krasnov nodded. Understood. Good. Location can omit. Teach principles, they'll adapt. Next year's Mikhail trained special groups. Every few months people came, young, strong, with cold professional eyes. He taught survive extreme conditions, hide weeks, months. Keep sanity in isolation. Told psychological techniques. How fight solitude. Talk aloud. Keep mental diary. Create daily routine. How not go mad. Set small goals every day, mark time, remember what's waiting outside. Told about physical survival, how insulate shelter with improvised materials, make stove no smoke, get food winter when nothing grows. His trainees listened, wrote, asked questions. Some then disappeared, went on assignments Mikhail didn't know and didn't want know. Several times told, your student survived thanks what you taught. That best reward. Call of Dugout, 1963. 10 years after escape. Mikhail woke May. Day 10 years ago escaped camp. Lay. Looked ceiling thought. Dugout still there. No one found except that search group they classified find. Didn't destroy. So stands underground in taiga empty. Silent. His home 3 years. And suddenly wanted see again. Desire strange, irrational. Why return to hell survived. But didn't let go. Needed see. Remember, close that chapter finally. Took vacation, no reasons. Told Anna going north for work. She didn't believe but didn't ask. Trip to familiar district week. Train, then truck, then foot.
Taiga met silence.
And indifference. Nothing changed. Same spruces, same swamps, same infinity. He walked old paths new by heart. Found stream fished, abandoned hut cache. Old logging site found dead man's workbook. And finally, hill on swamp edge. Hill under which dugout. Approached slowly, like grave. Snow long melted, but entrance camouflaged moss, branches. He raked branches, found hatch, opened. Inside darkness and damp smell. Descended. Dugout as left 3 years ago. Bunks from branches, stone stove. Firewood remains corner. All smaller than remembered. Memory exaggerated sizes. Actually tiny hole 2 by 1.5 meters, 1.5 height. Here lived 3 winters. Here almost died hunger, cold, solitude. Here became different person. Mikhail sat on bunks, ran hand over wall. Earth, roots, stones. Primitive but worked. Saved him. Sat hour, maybe more, remembered Doug first night frozen hands. Lay listening dogs overhead. Counted days notches on wall. There, corner barely visible. 927 notches. Each day life in hell. Then rose, climbed out, closed hatch, camouflaged again carefully. Let stand, let be. Monument to himself who survived. Leaving, turned last time. Hill amid taiga unremarkable. No one think under it man's home. 3 years hiding from world. Goodbye, said quietly. Thank not becoming grave. And left, no more turning. Last year's 1970s, Mikhail continued work. Teach, live. Katia finished medical, became surgeon, married, bore 2 children. Grandchildren called Grandpa Misha, not knowing his story. Anna didn't tell children details. Why traumatize? But grandson Alexei, when grew, started asking, why Grandpa strange? Why can't elevator? Why wake screaming nights? When Alexei 16, Mikhail told, all from arrest to dugout, from escape to return. Boy listened, no interrupting, wide eyes. Grandpa, your hero. He exhaled and, no, Mikhail shook head. Not hero. Just man wanted live and did everything to survive. But you endured what others couldn't. Others couldn't because died. I just turned out resilient or lucky, don't know. Alexei thought, then asked, and dugout? Still there? Think yes if no one found. Can go. Want see. Mikhail looked at grandson long, then nodded. When you're 18, go. I'll show. 1982. Last journey. Mikhail Gromov 67 when last went taiga. With him grandson Alexei, 18 student, strong, curious. Trip 2 weeks. Roads worsened. Infrastructure collapsed. North emptying. Camps closed. Settlements dying. People leaving. Taiga advancing. Polar camp escaped 30 years ago stood abandoned. Barracks rotting. Fences collapsed. Towers tilted. Nature taking back. Mikhail stood on former parade ground. Looked ruins. So much suffering. So many deaths. Now only wind wandered ruins. Crows cawed on roofs. Here you were? Asked Alexei. Here. 3 years. Terrible place. Not place terrible, people terrible. They went further taiga to hill swamp edge. Mikhail led confidently. 30 years passed. But paths remember. Body remembered every turn. Every landmark. Hill stood place unchanged. Moss covered. Mikhail approached. Raked camouflage. Opened hatch. Here my dugout. Alexei looked inside, whistled. Tiny, how lived here? Lived. No choice. They descended both, barely fit. Alexei examined bunks. Stove scratches walls. You counted days? Yes. 927 days. 2 with half. Years. 3. First months didn't count. Then started. Alexei ran hand wall like grandpa once. Here scary, dark, cramped. How not go mad? Almost did many times but held. Why? What held? Mikhail thought long, then answered, stubbornness, didn't want surrender, didn't want them win. Country took 7 years my life, but rest life I'll take back. That's what held. They sat dugout hour silence. Grandpa and grandson, past and future. Then rose up. Mikhail last inspected dugout, nodded himself, closed hatch, camouflaged entrance carefully. As always, maybe fill in, suggested Alexei so no one find, not desecrate. Mikhail shook head. No, let's stand. Maybe someone someday find, wonder, ask. Who lived here, why, how survived? And that'll good. People need stories impossible possible. They left, leaving dugout taiga. Epilogue.
Mikhail Gromov lives till 1994.
Died 79 in sleep quietly. No pain. Buried city cemetery next Anna. Died year earlier. Funeral many people. Former cadets, friends, family. Spoke him as teacher, mentor, hero. But no one except family knew truth 3 years dugout. Katia told story after death. Wrote book Invisible Dugout. Published 1996. Book bestseller. People read didn't believe. How survived 3 years underground kilometer camp. But truth. Documents confirmed. Dugout found expedition 1997. Still stood. Untouched hidden taiga. Made photos, measurements, descriptions. Now dugout site small monument. Granite stone plaque here. In 1953 to 1956. Captain Mikhail Petrovich Gromov. Military intelligence, lived 3 years. Hiding after Gulag escape. Survived thanks courage, knowledge will life. Memory him immortal. Dugout not excavated. Conserved. Left as is. Monument human perseverance. Every year dozens people come. Former military, tourists. Just curious, stand hill. Try imagine how live 3 years underground. Can't imagine. Impossible imagine if not experience self. Last words. In Gromov family archive preserved diary Mikhail kept last year's. Entry March 1993. Year before death. Dream dugout every night. 40 years passed, but not let go. Probably not till end. People ask regret those 3 years. Could surrender, return, serve term quietly. Regret no day. Those years underground taught Maine. Man stronger than thinks. Can more than seems. Endure seems unbearable. If not give up. Didn't give up my victory. Small, personal, invisible anyone but mine. Dugout saved life. But Maine returned me myself. Underground darkness alone. Understood who really. Not captain, not intelligence, not husband. Not father, just man wants live. And that's enough. When die, want grave say simply survived. Nothing more, because Maine. On Mikhail Gromov grave so written. One word. Survived. Afterward. Mikhail Gromov story, reality fiction same time. Such people existed. Fugitives hid years taiga, dugouts, abandoned mines. Many died, some survived. Their stories remained KGB archives, relatives' memories, legends told north, taiga ghosts, invisible people, those searched not found.
Mikhail Gromov dugout symbol.
Symbol, even scariest system, most in human conditions, man survive if not give up. 3 years underground, one against state. And one because survived.